Update 7.9 for the finals has just released. I'll go over all the details with the patch notes, and there's a lot of things we gotta cover with this one. Some additional context and even dev notes that need to be taken into account. We'll also jump over to some community mentionables and what's happening around the finals right now. As it's been super chaotic, we got a ton to talk about. What's up, World Dystopia here, back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things the finals. As per usual, we'll jump into patch 7.9. For today's Discord opening statement that comes from Embark Dusty, she mentions the end of the season showdown has now officially begun with their new limited time mode, and it's a head-to-head mode where CNS and Via will duke it out in a final round of cash out, faster respawns, unlimited coins, and a brand new game show event where you will meet Ned Strike. He does essentially stand outside of the arena and throw in rocks and destroy random areas, although he usually does target a player area from what I've seen. So pretty cool there if you want to check out the new LTM. It does make me wonder if they're going to utilize this LTM or this type of mode inside the esports. As we looked at before with the majors coming out, they're actually doing a lot of final round or quote-unquote final round modes. This one might coincide with that. I do have a video breaking down the entire majors announcement, all the things that are happening at that. So if you do want to check that one out eventually, it is on my channel, and I'll include a link down below. Another cool thing with this update, as she mentions, if you're missing some pages in the battle pass, they've got you covered with an XP override that's now engaged until the end of the season. You'll get 200% for daily contracts, and additionally 150% for XP Advance. So pretty nice there. You'll get a few levels or even a level or so per game. Very nice to see. They do this pretty much every season. I actually feel like this one was quite early on. One of the first few seasons, maybe it's season 2, I think it was only 2 weeks before the end. So glad to see that they are kind of ramping that up and making it a little bit sooner. She also goes on here to say they brought a brand new feature in to stay as a party. So you'll see it here. After a match has ended, in the bottom right, you can stay as a team. Let's say if you enjoyed who you played with, you can then proceed to play another match with them. A few other games I've played have had this feature, and I actually really do like it. Wondering if you guys will utilize it. I didn't see it utilized in the few matches I played, although I've only played a few so far. But still, a nice quality of life change there that will add some more socialization. She ends off here with the balance and bug fixes, fresh store content, Twitch rewards that we'll go over here in a second, and then finally the registration for the open qualifiers is now open. I'll include a link to the blog post and as well as a sign up page so you can head to that if you did actually want to sign up for those and get into the open qualifiers. Again, you should do so sooner than later, as those do start on August 30th, and I imagine for them to have everything in order, I would get that in this week at the very, very latest. Next week does tend to push it a little bit, but I would get it in sooner than later. Moving on here, we'll jump over to the patch notes side of things, where yes, we did see the new Twitch drops. Those are located here, and you can get those just by watching a streamer on the category. That is the new Broadcast Blaze set of equipment, and in order to obtain all those, you will need to watch for 3 hours. Of course, that does lead us down to the store update, which includes the Hammerhead Ned set. So yes, you can become Ned himself and ravage the arena. Some additional sets here like the CNS Urban Offline Pack, which also next to that is the Uncroaked Helm piece and the Grim Residue. This also includes 3 weapon sets, the Hold On Impact, the Phantom Pack, and even the Steel Directive. Again, aligning with all sides there, CNS and Via, as well as a new revolver animation called the Snap Cycle. So actually quite a lot for this store update. Next up here, of course, there is some balance changes with this update, as it is one of the major ones with 7.3, 7.6, and 7.9. Those are typically where we're going to see balance patches or balance changes, at least the quote-unquote major ones. We're first up here, the Goo Grenade just got an increase to its cooldown. Quite a massive one though, 50% here from 20 to 30 seconds. Dev note was that it was a bit too disruptive, reduced frequency to balance fights. Of course, it's utilized in pretty much every mode. They do mention there's some cash out changes with the Vault cash boxes no longer despawning at overtime start. This is for World Tour only. I've definitely had this happen, especially with cash boxes kind of just disappearing from your hands. However, as they do mention, this will not apply to ranked mode, so it will still despawn with undelivered vaults and cash boxes. Next up here, of course, they did do some weapon changes, where they did actually modify the 9.3R slightly. They decreased the fire rate here from 220 to 210. As I mentioned, just a slight nerf there. The Cerberus got a really interesting change here, where yes, its spread was reduced by 10%, making it more accurate. However, it now actually does way more heat to world objects. So as you can see here, it will instantly ignite a toxic gas. So pretty cool there. Model 1887 got an ammo capacity increase. Sledgehammer got a really nice change here for the secondary damage. They also do mention that a hit reg fix is coming very soon. They've really been trying to hone in on this one. And then for those sword users, you actually did get some mobility back here, or at least aiming mobility, where they did increase the vertical aim clamp on lunge from 40 degrees to 90 degrees. So as you can see here, you can fully range here from bottom all the way to the top. So it is a nice change there overall for that. We had a few additional content and bug fixes here. Animations got a bunch of things with the melee, sprint animations, throwing knife secondary no longer blocks view, and the riot shield desync has had some fixes. Although they do mention this is a first pass, they want to do some more again. There was a lot of desync going on earlier, so glad they have fixed that. The audio contracts and customizations all had some small fixes here. The esport menu section has now been updated with an open qualifier info and signups. Although again, you can access that from their blog page. There was gadget fixes here, nothing changed to them overall, just the elimination animation. Healing emitter was sometimes not working, and nullified opponents were able to deal quick melee damage, so now they're not able to do anything. Some smaller gameplay fixes here. The hit markers will now apply correctly or appear correctly. Hit reg issues with the KS-23 and SR-84 have been addressed. They did a sweep to some of the map fixes, and for once Kyoto is not on this list, but a few small changes there, patching some ground mesh, collision fixes, or even with the practice range having the leaderboard text fixed. Also private match have the building screen improved. This update did include UI fixes and even that new socialization for staying as a party. They have also now finally fixed the controller input with Steam. We had this massive section here though, and I'm going to go over exactly what happened. So for security, they have been deploying some new things here. First off, they are adding the de novo anti-cheat to the game entirely. At least that's what it's going to be a possible Steam rollout with Season 8. They are first testing those grounds with the Xbox for Windows. So essentially, if you download this game on PC through the Windows Store and the Xbox app client, and you play through that instead of Steam, that will now have de novo anti-cheat. Now, this doesn't have the DRM feature that de novo has. Obviously, that wouldn't make sense anyway since it's a free-to-play game. They do still mention that Steam Deck and Proton has been tested and supported. Again, still technically unofficially supported, but they made sure that it did work. So pretty cool there, because a lot of times when you add de novo, it usually doesn't work with Steam Deck or even the Linux OS. Now, there's a ton of info we can go over with de novo anti-cheat. To essentially break it down, they're just testing that anti-cheat through the Xbox Windows platform. It is their kernel level anti-cheat they have been teasing. Again, back when they did announce this kernel level anti-cheat, the vendor had not been named if it was going to be them themselves. EAC technically is already kernel level, although that one does have a fair share of issues sometimes. They have now confirmed a new solution here, which is de novo's anti-cheat. As I mentioned, EAC is still active through Steam. This is a test only on the Xbox platform, or at least the Xbox Windows platform. It is currently not a full switch over. Now, will they use both in tandem with each other? Probably not. We could see EAC being phased out with a switch to de novo on Steam, but they haven't confirmed publicly if they're dropping EAC. I've seen plenty of games actually use multiple anti-cheats. Some will switch back and forth depending on server load, and others will actually use both anti-cheats in tandem with each other. They might have their own in-house one in combination with EAC or BattleEye, etc. Again, we'll have to wait and see. We don't have a total amount of details with that just yet. Jumping over, we had some updates here with the rendering and graphics. Yes, they have finally added AMD FSR frame generation support, although I'll go over some of the issues with that I've found right now. They do mention that DLSS will pause when you're in the menus. That's to prevent UI artifacting. I've actually shown that example with Dragon's Dogma before, where UI elements kind of go a little bit crazy. Apparently that was happening with the menus, although I didn't really notice it. They mentioned with FSR 3 being implemented, they are actually updating it as well to 3.1.4. They do mention here that the fog light leak has been fixed, GPU performance boost with the heavy VFX, and they have removed some unfair graphics, lowering command lines. So yes, they did finally address that no texture streaming issue. I will say this update has been really CPU heavy for me. Typically hasn't been that before, around 40 to 50% utilization. I've noticed this time around though I am hitting between 60 and 80% of my CPU, although I do actually experience a bit of higher frame rate, so that could be working in tandem there. My graphics card's performing better, where they do mention the boost here, and then that could make my CPU work harder. So you might see some additional higher CPU utilization as well with the GPU. As I did mention though, there is some weird things with FSR right now. Realistically, anybody can use FSR frame gen, although if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, I'd more than likely recommend using DLSS. You could see the comparisons here between FSR quality and DLSS quality. I am using the exact same preset here with 67% quality render. That's for both DLSS and FSR. As you could see, quite the massive difference here around the hair and the head. all that fuzz and kind of artifacting there, that's with FSR. It's kind of what I've been preaching before, that FSR does look pretty bad and rough at times. DLSS has none of that, even especially in motion, where FSR gets even worse in motion. But hey, if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, totally understandable that you're going to want to utilize it. Although I will say right now, when trying to enable FSR frame gen, it doesn't show up for me, or it's under the DLSS frame gen toggle. I actually don't know what's going on with that. I'm assuming it's under the same menu toggle here. You are technically able to use FSR, frame gen, and DLSS. At least some mods that you can do for certain single player games apply that together. But typically if you enable one or the other in these multiplayer games, they kind of separate themselves. So I'm going to assume the FSR toggle for frame gen is the same one as the DLSS frame gen, or at least NVIDIA's solution. But yeah, again, not sure what's going on there. I assume they're just embedded into the same menu option. Moving on here, we do have some last minute mentions with the community. This first one, people have been talking about this like crazy. Yes, Moist Critical has basically been covering a ton of the finals. He's been posting a video almost every single day or every other day. He's had quite a few of them now, and he's posted to both his gaming channel as well as the main channel. Now, of course, one person isn't going to have the most insane impact, but we have seen a little bit of the low peaks actually rise up a bit. So where the low count of players actually does hit a tiny bit higher now, at least by a few hundred players, but the peaks haven't been as high, although it does seem like it is helping a little bit with consistency. So pretty cool there to see some larger YouTubers actually pick up the game and give it a little bit more press. We had a few other last minute mentionables here. This actually does come from a community manager, Dusty. She does go on to say that they won't be at Gamescom this year, but they're getting ready for DreamHack. So unfortunately, nothing at Gamescom this time around, no surprises. Maybe we see a little bit of news with Arc Raiders. We don't know for sure, but nothing for the finals as of right now. She also does mention that they are extremely busy right now, that she's been comically busy around this time of year. Again, getting ready for DreamHack. Does make a lot of sense. They got a ton going on with the finals. They got a bunch coming up here with Arc Raiders. The majors coming up, a brand new season, etc. So there's a lot unfolding right now that they're doing in the back end. Again, we'll have to wait and see though on all those updates. Last up here, of course, we do have those community mentionables from my community, and this comes from the Star Models page. First one here from VN Cent. He's calling this one Livewire, utilizing one of my favorite helmets, if not my favorite helmet from a recent bundle, and also utilizing some of the Season 7 cosmetic from the Battle Pass. Next up here, we have one from Vicky Villix. They're calling this one Mysterio. Of course, if you haven't seen Spider-Man, this is essentially what Mysterio kind of looks like. He did get it fairly close, especially with the colors given in the finals. The orange-purple clown shoes here do top it off. Next up here, we have one from Jedi. And they kind of need their own spotlight or their own mention in one of the videos. But they showcase off 5 different outfits here. Absolutely insane, the diverse range of casts they have. Obviously, they really like these pants from the new Battle Pass. Some of these are absolutely insane and look really cool, especially with some of their Photoshop editing on this. Yeah, this one is absolutely insane and a really well done put together. Fourth up here, we have Firth. Kind of fitting there with Ghost Runner attempt, and yeah, decently close. Of course, we might have been able to mix up the jacket a little bit more, but I think they did fairly well with that. They actually also are our last mention here, where this one is absolutely excellent. It's inspired by Thexan and Arkin from Star Wars Coder. They also do make an appearance in Star Wars The Old Republic as well. In fact, I do believe this is where this image is taken from. That's one of my favorite MMOs of all time, so shout out to that one. These look absolutely fantastic and really well done. Overall, that should about cover for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, and subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.